are live. Welcome, everyone, to the Dog Bookshop. I am Dagny Crata, co-owner of the Dog Bookshop, and we are coming to you with an amazing show tonight. I have a very special guest tonight, but I want to start off and saying, you are joining the Dog Bookshop's Road to the Cup Football 2026 Connect series. So that is our Soccer Connect Series 2026, which is our literary series. As we move closer to the historic 2026 World Cup, we are honored to spotlight voices who help us understand the global heartbeat of the world's game, of the beautiful game. Tonight's guest has spent years capturing the stories, struggles, and triumphs that make soccer more than a sport. Its culture, its identity, and its community is what our journalist here tonight will comes from, his background and what he covers in the game of soccer. The beautiful journalists who work in investigations, compassion, and powerful storytelling. Please welcome Jay Mwamba to the stage. Welcome, Jay. Can I hear you?
Thank you very much for having me.
And I do want to add that he is the author of Crash of the Buffalo, a book that we will talk about tonight. It takes us into the heart of a tragedy that claimed the lives of an entire football team and left a community shattered. Through deep research and interviews and emotional insight, he reconstructs not just what happened, but the lives of the young men that were involved in this tragedy. So we bring you real stories to the Doc Bookshop, and we are honored to have you a part of our literary series. Did I catch everything?
Oh, yes, it did. Thank you very much. And I'm very delighted to be here tonight.
So right now you're out there on the East Coast, right? Is the weather pretty good, or how's it going out there? How's the weather out there?
Oh, it's brutal. It's bitterly cold, extremely cold. Yeah, we're having a cold snap here. So you have it better off, I'm sure, down there south.
I hate to say, what was it, like 70 degrees? The weather out here is beautiful, just gorgeous. And so, but we're here to talk about the game of soccer. Now, I want to say it correctly. I know we say soccer, we say football. For you guys, I want to be respectful. We do know it's football, but in America, we call it soccer. So, and in many parts of the world, they call it soccer. So no disrespects to those teams, but I just want to acknowledge that we do know the difference here on the Doc Bookshop platform and respect both languages. But did you get a chance to tune in to match day on December 5th?
Yes, although I must confess, I was on deadline, so I wasn't able to watch everything in its entirety.
Okay, that's okay. I actually went to the watch party. It was held in DC, right in your area, part of the country. But I went to a watch party in Texas, and I got my little shirt on, you guys. You probably can't see it. I'm going to see you my shirt.
Nice.
That's the Texas. Nice. That's the official logo for the soccer in Texas. So every area had their official logo, and this is ours in Texas. Texas has 9 matches, and we did see some of the initial lineups. I can't think of what the whole initial lineup was, but what did you gather from what you saw on match day?
Match day, you mean the draw, right?
The draw day, yeah.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
I keep saying the draw, yeah.
The draw, yeah. Well, it's historic in that for the first time in close to 100 years, the next World Cup in 2030 will be the centennial, event. But this will be the largest World Cup. So, 48 countries. I think there were 13 at the first World Cup in 1930. So immense global interest, a lot of countries that have never, ever qualified for the World Cup before. Curacao, I think there are less than 1 million people. It's an island. Cape Verde, countries that have never, ever played at the World Cup will be there. So the focus, the attention would just be massive. Yeah. So it was very exciting just from that perspective alone.
I know I did a conversation this morning with Jean Duffy. She's the author of Soccer Grannies of South Africa, and South Africa did make it to the World Cup. So I think we're looking at how many countries in Africa. You guys, I failed to mention that Jay Mwamba, he is actually from Zambia, and we're going to dive in that story. The book that he wrote deals a lot with the history and the heritage of Zambian. Did I say that right? Zambian soccer.
Correct.
I hate to say it Zambian because but I wanted to ask you, which teams or players should we keep an eye on for this upcoming World Cup?
I mean, you're talking about all the top players in the world. I mean, should be there barring injury. If they're healthy, all the world's best players will be there. I mean, you're talking about Kylian Mbappe, who is probably the best. He's been the best player probably in the world the last couple of years. Messi's still there, but
don't let nobody from Argentina hear you say that, okay?
No, I mean, he actually Mbappe in the last World Cup, they lost to Argentina on penalties, and he became only the second player ever to score a hat-trick in the final after the great Pele. So I mean, barring injury, he will be there. Yamal Iman from Spain, who will probably be the next best player in the world. He's only 19 years old. You talk about America, USA, Team USA with Pulisic will be there. Weston McKennie from Texas. Texas has produced a lot of great players. So one of the greatest, in my personal opinion, the greatest American player up to now. I mean, Pulisic is still active. Clint Dempsey, he's from Texas. Very influential. Is top scoring player, and from Africa, you're gonna find Achraf Hakimi from Morocco, who is probably the best right back, defender in the world. So South America, of course, Messi will be there. Probably his last hurrah. Portugal will have Ronaldo. So just barring injury, this is just going to be like a feast, like a buffet for soccer lovers.
They said when I went to the draw day where's draw day? At Billy Bob's in Texas. I think they said Argentina is going to be here in Texas twice. I can't remember which rounds, but I know the audience was cheering when they found out that Messi, who plays in Florida right now. I think he's probably already left now, but who plays in Florida is going to be here. So he has a great fan base. I wonder if he was strategic in picking Texas, but I didn't hear you mention Neymar.
Neymar is 30. He's 33 now. He's been injury prone. The last 3-4 years, he hasn't played a lot for Brazil, even at club level. And I believe he had surgery this past week, knee surgery. So he has to recover. He has to, regain his form. He has to be good enough to be selected for Brazil because they just won't pick him just, as an unplaying player. So that's why I didn't mention him. I mean, he's unfortunately the last 3 years or so, he's been plagued by injuries, So we don't know if he's going to be there. Hopefully he will be there.
Yeah, I mentioned him because I didn't hear you say any players from Brazil. So
Vini Jr. should be there. Yeah, I saw him play this afternoon on television. Of course, they lost to Manchester City in the Champions League game in Madrid. Yeah, exciting player, very exciting player. And there's Esteval, young teenager. He plays for Chelsea, and he's also being tapped as the next big Brazilian star. So no, they'll be there. It's going to be a very exciting tournament.
Now, what team surprised you that didn't make it? I know I have to say Nigeria. That just like I was hearing some of the commentators and the journalists talking about that, and he said we're just going to have to brace everybody because Nigeria may not make it, and it's to our own fault. We caused our own failures in not to make the World Cup. But I think that kind of took the world by surprise. I went on almost said they made those extra matches so Nigeria can make it because they went up to 48 teams. But a surprise to me was Congo's going to make it. So I don't know if they played each other in the playoff, but they were in that playoff bracket together, and I think Congo came out victorious.
Yes, they played in there was a playoff. It was a one match playoff. So Congo played Nigeria, and the winner was going to qualify automatically. Oh, sorry, not automatically. Mm-hmm. The winner advances to an intercontinental playoff. So Congo beat Nigeria on penalties. So you can say of probably the two big names that may not be there. Obviously, Nigeria won't be there, but then there's also Italy. Italy are going through a playoff. They missed the last World Cup. Italy in Qatar. They failed to qualify for that World Cup, and they're in a playoff. They'll play in March. Hopefully they make it because they're historic. I mean, Italy and the World Cup is almost synonymous. It's like Brazil and the World Cup. Traditionally, these have been the two largest, the most influential teams at the World Cup.
That takes me by surprise. Of course, I didn't look at all the teams, but I could have sworn when I was at the draw that I seen the Italian flag. But you said Italy didn't make it. But I see that
they're playoff. So they still need to win, I think, 2 games. They still need to win 2 games to make it. But they missed out last time, and it's still they're on tenterhooks. Yeah, let's put it that way.
Okay.
But it would be actually disappointing if they're not there because Italy is it's one of the great footballing nations. One of the great soccer nations in history of the World Cup and FIFA football. So yeah, it would be good for them. And of course, in the US there's a large Italian American population, and unfortunately with Nigeria not qualifying, I understand there's a large Nigerian population in Houston, so they'll miss out.
That was just tough. Okay, I'm not going to lie. That was just a tough, and just to hear all the conversation, because I want to say every international Nigerian conversation was very upset, and what really captured me was one of the journalists said, I really want all of Nigeria to brace themselves. I was like, well, that's serious. But I do want to also say, I want to point out Ghana, because I don't know, match day, they seemed like they were pretty disappointed in the bracket that they got into. And I think, they were actually the last to get into a bracket, and I think they got into a bracket with England. It was England, Ghana, Japan. Was it Japan? I can't remember.
No, it's they're playing England, and actually England's going to be there. That to be the opening game. The first game they're playing England. I'm sorry, no, England's playing Croatia first game. So they're in Group Alpha Larry with Croatia, and then there's England and Panama.
Okay, yeah. So it's England, Croatia, Panama, and Ghana. Yeah, and right. I didn't quite capture the post conversation, but they didn't appear to be very happy about it.
Yeah, well, Ghana again, and especially for American fans, they remember Ghana very well because on their World Cup debut, the very first time Ghana played in the World Cup, they qualified for the 2006 World Cup in Germany, and they were in the same group as the USA, and the USA was expecting, because the USA has had a World Cup tradition, since 1994 when they hosted the World Cup very successfully, so they had played in every World Cup up until then, but Ghana beat the United States 2-1, and then 4 years later they met again. This was in the round of 16 in South Africa, and the winner advances to the quarterfinals. And Ghana won in they won in extra time, what you'd call I guess OT here, overtime. They won 2-1 again. So Ghana had the US's number, but that was a special Ghanaian squad. They had world-class players, like Michael Essien. They had Suli Muntari, and then they had Asamoah Gyan, the striker. They had Andre Ayew, great players, and they missed the last World Cup, and they are back. But I don't know if they're definitely not at the same level as the Ghanaian team that played in previous, the previous World Cups. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, I was rooting for Ghana, in the audience. Of course, I was amongst Latin America. It had a huge Latin America presence. But, and then I stood up, and when they started talking about their bracket, I think they're like bracket D or something like that. And I stood up and said, I'll go for Ghana. I'll go for the Black Star.
The Black Stars of Ghana, yep.
Yeah, I said, I'll go for the Black Stars of Ghana. And they said, we got somebody that's supporting Ghana. There she is. And so I was all up in it. It was so fun. It was so many people that showed up to this to draw day. Oh, in your experience, what makes soccer fans around the world so unique compared to other sports? Just that whole energy, that whole atmosphere. But in your opinion, what makes that just so energetic?
Well, I guess it's because, of course, it's the number one sport in the world. It's been the number one sport in the world globally.
You gotta whisper that. You cannot say that loud.
In the USA, right? Yeah, it's a very simple sport. You just need a ball, and that's all. And back in Africa, back in the day, and in other, back in the underdeveloped culture in the third world, you didn't even need a leather football. They would make a ball, they would just get some newspapers, rubber, whatever, you tie strings around it, and they played barefoot. In fact, I think in the late 50s, late 1950s, Nigeria undertook a tour of the UK, England. Nigeria was a British colony, and the national team toured England, Britain, and a lot of the players, if not all of them, played actually barefoot. So it's that simple. It's a simple sport. It's about camaraderie. It's a teamwork. And it's exhilarating. Yeah. So I think maybe that's what separates it from all these other activities. Yeah. And it can be played by everybody and anyone. And just, I've been in this country for 36 years. And when I came, America actually led the world in women's soccer. Women did not play soccer at that level, like here, college. And then boom, you're talking about, 3 decades later, women's soccer is big. It's massive as well, so, it's really amazing. It's remarkable. Yeah.
Okay. And I want to say, how do you see the 2026 World Cup changing the popularity of soccer? I had a conversation with one of the other, Nathan Nipper, and he was telling me how the United States helped commercialize soccer to a whole nother level. And
yes.
But how do you see the popularity of soccer changing?
Oh, like when I came in 1989, I came January 1989, and the only networks or channels where I could watch soccer on television was, Telemundo, Univision, the Spanish network, or they had this public access channels, a couple of them. You had the Eastern New York Soccer Association, which is like an regional amateur league, and they would sponsor AC Milan games like at 8:30 in the morning. You would never watch soccer on ABC, NBC. On Sunday, Saturday, I watched the MLS Cup on Fox at 3 in the afternoon. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. That would have never happened. You had to go to watch an international game. You had to go, this is in New York, in Manhattan. You had to go to Lower Manhattan to to either an Irish pub or an English pub to watch games. Now they're on TV, you stream them. So, it's grown. And the USCS has commercialized soccer to a tremendous extent. It's all about money now. I'm a bit of a purist, I don't think it's all good, but it is what it is, and you can see, yeah.
Well, a lot of people have, said that it takes the culture and the value out of it. But I just see the excitement and energy. And maybe I didn't see it in 1994 as much as I've seen it now. I think with the evolution of technology and social media, we can all be a little bit more connected. And we can all do series like this this is why I put the series together, so we can get more connected, more involved in the sport. If we feel the heartbeat, feel the stories behind it, I think as Americans we'll take it to that higher height. So I'm excited. I'm just totally excited. That's why we created the road to the World Cup.
You've done a fantastic job. And then, should we whisper? America being a nation of immigrants. So you got Italian Americans, Brazilian Americans, Greek Americans. You got all these, from Americans, different heritages, different backgrounds, and the homelands come over, and that just adds to the excitement,
You guys, if you're just now tuning in, I am on with Jay Mwamba, and he is just a connoisseur of soccer. He is a journalist, an investigative journalist, an author, and just very compassionate about this sport. So we are happy to have him on. Please, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. But we are going to continue in this conversation. We are going to talk about his book, Crash of the Buffalo, but we really want to center what's going on with the World Cup, how you can get connected, how you can become passionate about the sport, like I am becoming very passionate about the sport. Jay, you want to know something? I am actually getting all the scarves for the countries that are participating in the sport. I only got to South Africa. They're going to give me the rest of them, or they're going to get them to me. FC Dallas. So they have all the scarves. And so earlier today, I wore my South African scarf. And it was just amazing. So I'm going to get Ghana, Senegal I'm going to start with the African nation. I'm unapologetic, you guys. I just have a kinship with the African nations, specifically Ghana, Congo area, Algeria, Tunisia is in there. I can't think of all the African teams, but and then we didn't even talk about some of the Caribbean teams. Panama. Well, yeah.
Panama's there, and now the interesting thing, we're talking about Congo. So Congo defeated Nigeria in the playoff. Actually, the game was played on neutral ground in Morocco. So now in March, Congo they've advanced to the playoffs. They are going to play
Jamaica.
Jamaica has to beat. Oh my goodness! I just forget I just forget who Jamaica play a certain team, and because Congo is the top seeded or top ranked in that playoff group. So Congo plays the winner of Jamaica versus I just forget the other team if Jamaica wins, and which is really unfortunate because again these are two, Jamaica, the Reggae Boys, and we're going to
get into that conversation. I know you're biting.
How they got that nickname?
Get to that conversation.
Yeah, how they got the Reggae Boys nickname, Monica. Yeah, it's the Zambian connection. So yeah, so Congo, and they'll be playing Mexico, by the way. The playoff will be in Mexico. I believe it's in Guadalajara.
Oh yes, that's the first game at the Stadium Azteca.
No, Azteca's in Mexico City, the capital. Mexico is playing South Africa in the opening game at Azteca.
Oh, okay. I thought I could have sworn I heard him say it in.
Yeah. Mexico's going to play South Africa at the Azteca Stadium in the opening game. But in the playoffs in March, Congo's going to play the winner of the Jamaica playoff. I just forget the country Jamaica's playing. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes. What part of the game, tactics, culture, players, fans fascinates you the most?
I'm sorry?
What part of the game, the tactics, the culture, the players, what fascinates you the most?
Oh, myself personally? I think everything. I think everything. The tactics, the individual skill. Traditionally, and that's another reason why fans are so crazy, why they've been crazy, and why they love the Ronaldos, the Messis, why they love the Pelés, Garinchas. It's a dribbling skill. When you see a player, he's running at defenders, and he dribbles a defender, he dribbles another defender, and scores. That's just it's just incredible. Yeah. So, but for me, yeah, it's the tactics. I mean, a goalkeeper pulling off a wonderful, incredible save. Like today, I was watching the Real Madrid Manchester City game, and Courtois, who's a Belgium goalkeeper, Belgium's going to be at the World Cup. He put off this incredible
Right.
double save. Even the defensive plays. I mean, a team under attack, and they clear the ball, sliding tackle, a clearing header, just everything. Everything is really, for me, I find everything fascinating. And the good teams are able to do all these things. Yeah, they're good. They excel at all these, different plays.
I know my nephew was showing me the different moves that he does. My nephew plays soccer, and
Okay.
I just love to see him dribble what he calls dribbling with his feet, and he has some, that I think it was the striker kick. I can't remember. He's trying to teach me along the way, so I'm getting like intricately involved in the sport. Okay, we are actually going to go before we go into the book. I just want to talk about your journalism, your writing of soccer. How long have you been writing about soccer?
Well, I started working. I went to journalism school in Zambia, and I was very young. I think I was like 19 years old. And then I started working. I got a job. Actually, I interned at a newspaper. And after the internship, I was offered a job, and they asked me, well, where do you want to work, on the sports desk or on the news desk? I mean, that was a no-brainer for me, because I was a soccer fanatic. So I said, I work on the sports desk, yeah. So this was January 1982. I started working for the Zambia Daily Mail, and some of the best years of my life. Traveling with the national team. Unfortunately, some of those have perished in the crash. Um, you know, Traveled to Egypt, Cameroon, different, Malawi, Ghana, with the Zambian national team, and just, covering boxing and everything. And of course, I was a soccer fan way before that. So it was, you are getting paid for your passion. So that's what it was like.
Okay, now let's go on. Thank you for sharing your background. We are really going to jump in, and I think we covered everything we could cover on the sport right now to this date. I know I'm going to just definitely ask you to get involved when I have the conversation on Pele at the top of the year. So, your book, Crash Buffalo, the tragedy that killed a football team and rocked the world, is more than a historical recounting. It is a deeply human story of loss, resilience, and collective memory. You bring a meticulous research and a heartfelt storytelling of the strategy. Bring us into your book, Crash of the Buffalo. Oh, hold your book up for me. That's the actual team. So if you can see it, if you can't see it, jump on our website, and Donna will probably put that link. My business partner will probably put that link so you could jump on and get the book. Yes, jump on and get the book. We're going to talk about these series probably all the way up until our first match, which is in June. So the first match is June 13th. So that's the book. You can go to the bookshop.com. Donna's going to put that in the chat, as well as put it on, everybody's on Facebook. So because we're going Facebook and YouTube, so she's going to put it in both places, Facebook and YouTube. Yes. So bring us into your book, Crash of the Buffalo.
Yeah, well, for those that may not be aware, so this book is about the plane crash. It was a military plane, and this photo was taken of the team 2 days before the crash. This was the last game played on April 25 in Mauritius, the island, the Indian Ocean island of Mauritius, which is, part of the African continent. So the team had flown to Mauritius on a military transport plane. It was built by de Havilland, which is a Canadian company. It's the Buffalo series. That's the name. Hence the title, Crash of the Buffalo. It was a Buffalo plane. So this photo was taken on April 25. The next day, on April 26, the team flew back to Zambia. It's like about 1,000 miles, I think, around 1,000 miles from Mauritius, over the Indian Ocean, over Madagascar, again over the ocean and into Zambia. They arrived on April 26, 1993. It was a Monday afternoon, and the next day they were scheduled to fly to Senegal for a World Cup qualifying game. So Zambia had made it through to the last three. There were three teams remaining: Zambia, Senegal, and Morocco. And the winner was going to qualify for the World Cup here in the United States, the 1994 World Cup. And at that time, the Zambian team was very strong. Morocco was our traditional rival. It seemed as though we always ended up playing them in World Cup qualifiers. And back then, you'd play, it was knockout, home and away, and the aggregate winners advance. And we had always beaten Morocco in Zambia, but they always beat us in Morocco. So on April 26th, the team returns from Mauritius. They spend the night, and they actually switched planes because it was an Air Force plane, the Buffalo, and at that time there were 5 Buffalo planes in the inventory. They had purchased 7 in 1976, but 2 had crashed, earlier. And so they switched planes the next day. So they took off, made a refueling stop in Congo, Brazzaville. At that point, there were some problems with the engine. One of the engines, the left engine, the pot engine. But they still took off, landed in Gabon, Libreville, which is right on the ocean, Atlantic Ocean. They refueled, and there were still some issues with the engine, but I guess a decision was made by the pilots to continue. Again, it's a military plane. It's an Air Force plane. So they take off. This is around local time was about 10:45 p.m. local time. They take off, and probably a couple of minutes after takeoff, the left engine explodes, and the plane plunges into the Atlantic Ocean. There were 30 people on board. There were 18 players, 5 officials, from the Football Association of Zambia, and then the balance, the 5 were Air Force crew, 3 pilots, an engineer, and I forget, I think they had another Air Force official, and they all died. And the players that died were basically, you talk about the cream of Zambian football, with the exception of 3 players that were playing in Europe. They were based in Europe. And that's the sad summary.
Wow. And that was all 9. It was how many players again?
There were 18 players on board. But the story continues. So now at that point, of course, the world is devastated. Zambia is devastated. I mean, Zambia is just, it's a horrific, unimaginable. It's like a nightmare, an unbelievable nightmare. So when that happens, there's a question of, well, should we continue with our qualifying campaign to reach the World Cup, or should we withdraw? Everybody expected, I remember reading Reuters and all these other, news agencies, newspapers saying that, surely they're going to withdraw from the World Cup qualifying campaign, from the Africa Nations qualifying campaign. But they said, you know what? They decided, let's continue, because if we withdraw, our heroes, our friends would have died in vain. And so they continue. And guess what? 10 weeks after the crash, Morocco comes, and the new team, which has been preparing in Denmark. So the government requested assistance from countries to help rebuild the Zambian team. And the Danes, were the first to respond. So they sent players, they sent selected new players, and they were joined by Kalusha Walia was the captain. He was one of the three. And of course, he was a top player. He was playing in Holland for PSV Eindhoven. And so he comes back, and his namesake, Johnston Walia, also comes back. He was playing in Switzerland. We had a third player, Charles Musonda.
Oh, let me pause you right there. So you said some of the Zambian players that were playing for other teams actually came back.
Yeah, there were three. They were playing in Europe. They were playing for clubs in Europe.
Okay.
Yeah, there were just the three of them. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but everybody else was lost. Yeah. So they come back, and about 10 weeks after the crash, they beat Morocco in Lusaka. And they come from a goal behind. They're losing 1-0, and everybody's distraught, and they think, oh, it's over. And because the players that died in the crash are actually buried near the stadium, just outside the stadium. So there were fans that were actually looking over, like, come and help us, But Zambia comes back in the second half, and they score 2 goals. Kalusha scores the winning goal from a free kick, and Zambia beats Morocco 2-1. So, and then they go on to qualify for the African Nations Cup. Eventually, Zambia fell 1 goal short. They went to Morocco. They needed a draw to qualify for the World Cup in the USA, but they lost 1-0. So that's the comeback. That's the the really remarkable comeback after the tragedy.
Yeah, after the tragedy, and amongst some of the there was a young team. Among those that was killed was the coach. And the coach was, I think he set a world record. That is the same, can't think of his,
Godfrey Chitalu, Godfrey Yuka Chitalu.
Godfrey, yes. And lead us into that, because I think that's a very important part of this tragedy. Well, it's all tragic. But to have somebody that had world record and came back to coach, and he was also killed in that.
Yeah, Godfrey Chitalu, considered the greatest Zambian footballer ever, and he's actually he's the all-time leading scorer in Africa on the international level. I think 79 goals, thereabouts. So he scored more goals in international games on the continent than any other player. And in 1972, he was a striker, powerful striker, about 6 foot tall, 6'1", and he could dribble. And in fact, the only criticism against him was that he dribbled too much. He didn't pass a lot. That was the one criticism against him. But in 1972, he scored 107 goals. So that's the world record in a calendar year. So he scored 107 goals in a calendar year. And people may ask, well, how come he never played in Europe? But okay, what people must understand is that in Africa, just about every African country was colonized by the Europeans, and even in England, Britain, there was, the color, they call it the color bar, So there were very few players. There were very few black players. Even British black players. There was an influx of Caribbean workers after World War II in the 50s. So a lot of them could not even, they couldn't play football until much later. So had it been today, I mean, Godfrey obviously would be playing for perhaps Barcelona, Real Madrid, and he was so he came back to coach the team just before the crash, and his co-coach was Alex Chola, another outstanding player who also would have easily played in Europe if it was today, but at that time you found very, very few black players playing in Europe. Yeah, in fact, like in England, for instance, the very first black player capped by England was in 1977, Viv Anderson, a defender.
Okay. So, guys, if you're just now tuning in, we are interviewing with Jay Mwamba. He wrote the book "Crash of the Buffalo: The Tragedy That Killed a Football Team and Rocked the World," and we are just so honored to have him a part of our literary series as we move closer to the historic 2026 World Cup. We are honored just to spotlight the voices who help us understand the global heartbeat of the game. And so he is here talking to us about the book, as well as talking to us about the World Cup, about the game. I know we have a lot of people that don't know a lot about soccer, so don't know a lot what's going on, what's taking place, the methodology to put the teams together, the draw days, all those exciting moments is new for a lot of people. And I don't, hopefully I'll see it again in my lifetime, but if I don't, I really want to take advantage of all the greatness, all the good, the greatness of what we call or coin the phrase the beautiful game. So again, thank you everyone that continues to tune in. If you have any questions, just please drop it in the chat and we are going to go on into our conversation regarding the book. And I'm loaded with questions and everything else. What drew you to this story? And I know besides you being from Zambia, what drew you to this story?
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned earlier, I was a sports reporter in Zambia. I worked for the Zambia Daily Mail. And so I knew a lot of the players. I had traveled with them. I would cover the national team when they played, on the continent. I knew Gotrich Dalu. I knew Alex Chola, who was the co-coach. I knew like the goalkeeper Efo Chabala, who was the best goalkeeper on the African continent at that time. I traveled with him many times. So when the accident occurred, I never thought. I mean, it never occurred to me that I would be writing a book about it. I was obviously shocked. It hit everybody on two levels. The loss of your national team, the loss of hope, because we were confident they would make it to the World Cup in 1994, and we were confident that they would do pretty well, so that's dashed. And then, of course, the loss of lives. I mean, I knew most of them again, they were my friends, so that's another loss, and not just my friends, but they were my heroes, I mean, as a football fan, you cheer for them and everything. So that was the loss, yeah. So and then a few years later, I thought, because I thought this is a tragic event. I mean, as mentioned in the blurb, there have been aviation accidents involving athletes. The U.S. lost the boxing team, amateur boxing team. I think it was 1980. They were flying to Poland. Manchester United were involved in a plane crash in 1958. Alianza Lima, it's a Peruvian team, in 1987. And so I said to myself, I mean, this has to be documented. I need to write something for posterity for the future, because there had been a couple of books written in Zambia, but they were written for the local audience, so. But I was just inspired and driven that a book must be this event must be documented, chronicled for the international audience. So that was my the inspiration, primary inspiration. Yeah.
What were the most surprising facts or hidden details you uncovered during your investigation?
Well, I think probably the most I mean, how do I put this? First of all, I mean, okay, what happened is that you see that plane, as I mentioned, when they went to Mauritius on a Buffalo plane, and they flew back to Lusaka on the 26th, and they switched planes. But that plane the plane that they were asked to fly in had been parked for like 4 months. It had a technical fault, and it was given what in aviation parlance, in aviation language, AOG, aircraft on ground. And that's a term applied to an aircraft that has a serious fault. It cannot fly, so it's grounded. And that Buffalo had AOG status for like 4 months. And then I tried to find out why, and nobody could actually, could say. Because I mean, obviously, this is years have passed, and I spoke to some folks, that were in the Air Force, but Nobody was really talking. So they worked on it, I spoke to the commander. Unfortunately, he passed away just a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
He flew it. The Air Force commander had flown the plane, so he took it on a test flight to Livingstone, which is a tourist capital in Zambia, and back. And he says it was fine. And then I think 2 days later, someone else took it on a test flight, but there were issues. So the thing is that why did they, you know, decide to use that plane? You're flying to Senegal, which is like 4,000 miles away, and they had to be, basically like hopscotching, leapfrogging across, making all these refueling stops because it's so far away. It's a turboprop plane. It was flying like a little bit less than 300 miles an hour, so it was going to take a long, long time to get there. So that was very risky. And then they've always talked about the reports were that they blamed. There were three pilots there. One was a colonel, and two were lieutenant colonels. In Zambia, having been a British colony, they call them lieutenant colonels. So they blamed the colonel because they said, well, he flew the team to Mauritius and then
Mm-hmm.
came back, spent a night in Lusaka, and then was flying the team to Senegal. But there were three, they were rotating. And what I discovered, actually, what I was told is that the person they blame was not actually in the cockpit. He wasn't flying the plane then. So I think that's the most shocking thing. And then the other thing is that, the Zambian government has never released an official report on the crash. So now you're talking about what? It's 1993, so that's 32 years now, going to 33. The government has never released the official report. The Gabonese government did 10 years after the crash. So in 2003, the Gabonese government did release a report, and they concluded that when that left engine exploded, the pilots or whoever was, one of the pilots, because when an engine catches fire, you need to cut the gas supply. So they switched off the right engine, which was okay, and that was the only source of thrust power. So because the right engine now is switched off, so the plane's got no thrust, and they just plunged into the thing. So that's why they were blaming Colonel Mwamba. They said, oh, he was tired. But the fact of the matter is that he was not in the cockpit. But people have always wondered, why hasn't the report been released? Why has the report not been released? And I had kind of like a eureka moment. I'm like, oh, you know what? The report was never released because it does not exist.
Mm.
So what I did, Rupia Banda was Zambia's, I think, fourth president. But he had been a family friend because my father, when we were young, Rupia Banda was an ambassador in Washington, D.C., and my dad was a diplomat at that stage. So he was posted to Washington, D.C. So this is 1969. So we went, I was a kid, I was very young. And that's when we first, I became acquainted with Mr. Banda. So he was a family friend, I was calling him like uncle, yeah. But long story short, he became president later, and he was a huge football fan, huge sports fan, boxing, soccer. And when I had my eureka moment, I went to him. He was retired now. He was no longer president. And I asked him, I said, did you see when you were president and you were a huge soccer fan, if anybody would know about the report, it would be, him. And I asked him, I said, did you ever see the report when you were president? He says, no, there is no report. So that's in the book. Those were the two biggest revelations. Yeah, that no report was ever written, but the pilot always blaming the colonel, on fatigue when he actually wasn't flying the plane. Yeah.
The timing of it, you almost think, is this a conspiracy? Was it, was somebody really trying to destroy the team, destroy their momentum? Who has something to gain from this? Did those type of questions seep into the not only just the investigation, but into the energy of the people, the spirit of the people? Did they respond like pointing fingers? Like, I can't imagine people not saying, "Hey, this is something deeper than just malfunction of a
Yeah.
plane."
Well, yes, there have been conspiracy talk, but I think it's out of denial because a lot of people, say they don't believe the plane crashed. They believe it was shot down. Because even the commander, the gentleman, the general who was Air Force commander at that time, he said, because I asked him, I said, when did you first hear about the crash? And he said it was like around, because the crash occurs at 10:45 local time in Gabon, Libreville. Now Zambia is an hour ahead. So in Zambia it's 11:45. It's almost midnight when the crash occurred. And so I asked him, I said, when did you hear? When did you hear, and how did you get the news of the crash? And he said his deputy commander, who was a major general, had called him like around, he heard on, I think it was a French radio station, like around 6 or 6:30 in the morning, that the Zambia Air Force plane had been shot down in Libreville. So that was what he heard. So I mean, he still believes it was shot down because the pilots were, I mean, they were extremely experienced, and he talks about the plane that he flew. But because the thing is that there is, Gabon was a French colony, and there is a French military base right near the airport. But I was at that airport in 1985 with the national team. But we were flying commercial. We were going to Cameroon for a game, and we landed there. Actually, spent a night in Libreville. Flew the next day to Cameroon, and after the game, same thing. We spent a night in Libreville. I mean, just about in Africa, I think almost every airport in the capital city has a military base there. That's where the Air Force, even in Zambia, I mean, the Zambia Air Force base is right there at the airport, but planes don't get shot down, right? So that, and also when you look at the wreckage and the remains of the bodies, they can tell whether it was shot down. The plane was not shot down. It was a terrible technical fault. Yeah, it was just a human error. That's what it is. As I mentioned in the book, it was human error.
So, that's just a heavy story. I don't know the weight of that. How were you able just to navigate the emotional weight of researching such a tragedy? I just, that's a lot, because that's a lot of young lives that were lost.
Yeah.
And, and then there's a lot of, what was the impact to the families of the parents, how did the families respond? And how did you capture the emotions of the families?
Yeah, well, okay. Personally, for me, because I mean, the crash occurred in '93. Now I only started working on the project around 2012, I think 2010. So some time had gone by. I was able to process a lot of stuff, to think. Yeah, so that helped. I'd been able to process a lot of things, and I was looking at it dispassionately as a journalist. The journalist that I am. So I was able to approach the project very dispassionately. The families, I did not talk to all of them. Because obviously there were 18 players there. I spoke to Kelvin Mutale was probably, I mean, he was going to be a superstar, a striker. Yeah, he was the star of the players that perished. He was the star of the team, young 23-year-old. And in 12 months, he had gone from playing second-tier football to playing in Saudi Arabia. And he actually tells his brother, just before the crash, he says, he tells him of a possible move to Portugal, to play in Portugal. But he says, I'll come and give you the details when I come back from Senegal. But obviously, that didn't happen. So I spoke to a couple, but not all of them, yeah, because obviously it's not possible to speak to everybody. And the fact that the book I was looking at writing, sure, it deals with, I use one or two players just, to be representative of the loss of the entire team. Yeah. And unfortunately, the distribution in Zambia has not been that great, but people know of the book, so I have not really been able to gauge, the reaction from the families.
Mm-hmm.
Or those, but a couple that I've read have given me, insight here. I am in touch with actually the children have a foundation, because the players, they left very young. Some of them, the ones that are children, left very young children. But now, obviously, the crash was 32 years ago, so they're in the early 30s, and they have a foundation that they set up. So I'm in touch with a couple of them. I talked to, yeah, and they've read the book, and they never knew their fathers. When you're 6 months or you're 2 years, when you lose your parent, the memories are not there. So they also kind of have a dispassionate approach to it. It's more like a historical piece, because of course, it's painful losing a parent regardless, but they look at it that way.
It's amazing that you said it's a historical piece. How did that change the landscape of football locally, nationally, and globally?
Well, first, I think more so what the rebuild team did after the crash. So, as I mentioned, the rebuild team went on to qualify for the Africa Cup, and then guess what? They actually reached the final. This is 10 months after the crash. They reached the final, and they lost to, guess who? Nigeria. They were leading 1-0. Nigeria, that same Nigerian team that 4 or 5 months later came and debuted in the 1994 World Cup, and they beat Bulgaria 3-0. I think it was they played in Texas, actually. They beat Bulgaria 3-0. So Zambia narrowly lost to that team, to that Nigerian team. And then later on in 2012, Zambia goes back to Gabon, Libreville, where the crash occurred.
Where the crash occurred.
Mm-hmm. And they win the Africa title. So that was, and that made it historic, of course, and it was news, and it was, it's like a fairy tale story to an extent, how, Zambia, it was, they went and they beat Ivory Coast, they beat teams that had some of the best players in the world playing for them, because the Ivory Coast team had Didier Drogba. He was in that team. He missed a penalty. Yeah, the Kolo brothers. The Kolo brothers. The Toure brothers. Yaya Toure and Kolo Toro playing in that team. Yeah, so it was a strong team. So they established that, and but things have not gone well afterwards. Zambia's soccer fortunes have declined. Yeah, but that's a story. And ever since I published this book, I get reaction. Almost every soccer fan of a certain age, in the 40s or so, remember this. And even the younger ones that, they say, oh, yeah, I've read about that. So that's the historical placement, yeah.
And it was just interesting to us that, it happened in the year that United States was hosting the World Cup. And so I thought, and when I did my research, I said, let's start there and go back as we move forward to our road to the World Cup. And let's just really channel some of those energies, some of those experiences, and bring the realities of that sport to young people, current young people, who see that passion, to understand where those passions come from. And it's just tragic. It's just tragic all around. And we, just reading the book, just praying for those families that had to deal with this, as you navigate, as the world comes around, each and every time, these feelings and emotions have to come up. This conversation has to come up, especially in April of next year. This is, I would be surprised if this is not something that's a conversation that's taking place in Zambia. Does Zambia focus on it, or I commemorate this incident? Do they have a special day to commemorate?
Yes, actually, because in Zambia they date the crash as April 28th, and And the reason being, again, because the crash actually occurred, Zambian time would have been like 11:45, which is like, quarter to midnight. But people only heard about it. They found out about it on the 28th in the morning when, and actually it was in the afternoon officially, because for some strange reason, even though word was going around that this tragedy had occurred, there was no official announcement, no breaking news, no nothing until the the radio station has a 1:15 p.m. news broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the news was broken. It was reported on during the 1:15 news. It was a top story, of course. So in Zambia, it's dated as April 28th. So I believe it's the Saturday, always the Saturday after the 28th, because the players were all buried in one. It's called Heroes Acre, outside the stadium where they played so many games. So on the weekend after the 28th, the families gather there, and they remember, they visit the graves, lay flowers, and they remember their fallen members, family members.
I have just a couple more questions as we come to a close of our conversation with Jay Mwamba about his book. How do you hope this book contributes to preserving their memories?
I hope, and I plan, in the spring, in the run up to the World Cup, to have signings, Barnes and Noble book signings, so fans coming over,
Oh, what about the Doc Bookshop? How are you gonna say?
I'm coming. Let me know. Give me a date. Give me a date.
No, you gotta come and talk about this.
I owe you. Yeah, please. Yeah, just let me know. Let me know. I'll come down there and come and do a signing. So, really, my focus is really, my idea is to perpetuate the memory, because for every generation of soccer players, just like any athletes, they travel to away games, right? They travel by plane, they fly, and then they hopefully they'll remember just that, once upon a time, we had our well, folks that were in our sport that unfortunately lost their lives, pursuing the pleasure, what their hobby or whatever, because not all were professional players, maybe professional just in name, but they played for fun, really. They were not, they were not making big money. No, they played for fun. They were really, crack amateurs, apart from a few that played overseas. Yeah. So for each generation of soccer players, it would be good for them to remember that once upon a time, we had, folks that loved doing what we're doing that unfortunately lost their lives, and so hopefully that way the memory will be perpetuated. Yeah.
I just really appreciate you sharing your book with us. Crash of the Buffalo, the tragedy that killed a football team and rocked the world as we come close to the World Cup, the road to the World Cup. This is just an amazing story, a heartfelt story. It's a heartfelt story, but we need to, my business partner keeps changing my words on me. She says it's tragic. But it needs to be said, it needs to be told, the history that there's real families, real voices that is behind this sport that is celebrated across the world. It's the sport, and it's more. And so we just appreciate you just sharing each and every aspect of the sport, the World Cup, what we can do, how we can embrace it. I mean, it's just a global heartbeat. It's just a global sport. It's the beautiful game. It's the beautiful sport. And so we truly embrace your time, your moment. But this series, like ours and other series, what do you think is the best way to continue to connect with readers, or not only just readers, to fans, to just these stories? What other ways do you think, or what other events do you think we can do to just connect these stories to the fans and to readers?
Yeah, I think I love this concept. Just keep on doing what you're doing. The signings, book signings, let me know when, when you let me over, I'll come down. I love the Dallas area. I love Texas. I've been there several times. Yeah, just keep on what you're doing. You will grow. You will, especially as the World Cup draws near, more people will take notice. And, I mean, off the top of my head, of course, I can't really think of other stuff, but just keep on doing what you're doing. And, the ideas will come,
We did not talk. We talked about Africa. We talked about the African teams. We talked about the Caribbean teams. We talked about the South American teams, but we did not dive as much as I would like to about the United States. And I missed that on a couple of interviews. And I promised I would say more about the United States. So give us the name of those players that we need to look out for in the United States before I let you go.
Okay. Well, you need to, I mean, there are several players that will have an impact. But before I get there, let me say this. I mean, based on my years of playing, I mean, watching football, I played amateur football myself. But my years as a journalist and just even as a fan, I think there are probably two countries in the world that play with enormous passion and commitment, even though, I mean, you might not have thought of so as much, because if earlier this year, some of the old US professionals were criticizing the current team. But the United States, in my years in this country, I think the US is the only team that cannot differentiate between a friendly game, an exhibition game, and a real competitive game. They play hard all the time. They play hard. They play very hard, and they've got some good players, because now you've got the bulk of the team playing in overseas. They're playing for good teams, Christian Pulisic, and you've got players in Italy. Pulisic is of Milan, and he's obviously the big US star. Gio Reyna in Germany he's just come back after there were some issues, I guess professional and maybe personal, I don't know, but he's a great player. Weston McKennie is a hard-working. He's a dynamo.
Weston McKennie is the one from Texas, right?
He's the one from Texas, and he plays for Juventus in Italy, and he's a dynamo in what's been known as the engine room. The engine room in soccer is the midfield. The midfielders are supposed to be there. They do the most running because they go up and down, up and down. They connect the defense to the attack. So he's a dynamo. And of course now the US was struggling a little bit in goals, because the United States since 1996 has always had world-class goalkeepers, but after Tim Howard retired, I think they struggled a little bit. But now they have this guy Freeze. Oh, he's good. Yeah, he's good.
It's only two that are from Texas, though.
Yeah, no, yeah, I don't think he's from Texas. Yeah, but he's good. He's claimed what was traditionally known as the #1 jersey. So the United States has got a very good. They've got, and of course they got a very good draw. They got a very good draw, first round draw, and yeah.
I can't remember who's all in our bracket. I just forgot, but they said traditionally, historically, that the teams that hosted tend to do a lot better. We don't know if because they're showing up for their country, they're representing their country. So they expect Canada, United States, and Mexico to do very well and make it past those first rounds. Do you agree with that?
On paper, yes.
Oh my gosh.
on paper, yeah, but then I think France in 1998 was the last host to win the World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
So all the hosts have not won since. But the United States has they have Paraguay, they've got Australia, and then they'll place a playoff winner. They're not sure that it's Kosovo or it's going to be, I think, Slovakia or Turkey. Or I forget the other team in the playoffs here. But the United States has got a good chance of at least getting to the quarterfinals, possibly. And it depends on who they meet in the knockout rounds and so on. Yeah, but that's again, it's on paper, and the coach he's okay, he's good. Pochettino, I remember him when he was a player. Yeah, he's a decent coach. I mean, I'm not dissing him, but he's a decent coach. Yeah. So it's going to be very interesting. But I mean, the US, they play hard. So I watch them so many times in friendly games, competitive games, and they don't tell the difference. They don't differentiate between, oh, this is a friendly, it's an exhibition, let's take it easy, or, they don't have that relaxed mentality. No, they're going to run. They'll run, and they run a lot. Very physical team, very athletic team, yeah. And they have talent in sports, in certain areas they've got talent, yeah. So, and then, but, in soccer, there's also luck, luck is also involved sometimes, in soccer, yeah.
So I'm always trying to create new fans so everybody like myself can just embrace this phenomenal sport that's coming to the United States. And the Dallas-Fort Worth area has the most matches, and the Doc Bookshop being near the epicenter, which is the Dallas Stadium, we are just trying to take advantage of everything World Cup and trying to bring create, entertain some of the fans and bring on new fans and just have them show appreciation for the sport. But Jay, I want to tell everybody, we want to thank Jay Mwamba for coming online. Jay is an accomplished journalist and author known for his powerful storytelling, meticulous research, and ability to bring forgotten histories to life. We appreciate you for telling the story, talking about the sport. I think we talked about the sport on so many different levels. So I hope I've did justice for some of the fans and created new fans for the sport. And we'll all go on this journey and this literary series that we established at the Doc Bookshop, which is the Road to the Cup Football 2026 Connect series. And so I know we're going to schedule you to come down to talk in person. We just got to get those dates. And you got to check out some of the matches to see which match you may come for. And that may be a good time to schedule. I know it's quite a few of the authors. They're looking at the matches and see who's going to win. And then they're going to determine when they're going to come down. I know because we have Argentina twice, a lot of the authors that are a part of our series have committed to come to the bookstore.
So. Oh, terrific. Yeah. No, I'm really looking forward to it. And it's been a pleasure. And, I really like to thank you and congratulate you because you're doing a wonderful thing.
Thank you. How can people reach out and connect with you if they have any questions? Because I'll be planning this series and doing quotes from you, all the information you've provided, I will be sharing on our social media. But how can people connect with you that have questions or even want to do an additional follow-up interview?
Yeah, sure. Well, I am actually on social media. Facebook, it's just J Mwamba, Jay Mwamba there. You find me on Facebook, and I'm also on Instagram.
Okay.
And that's at JKM Scribe. Yeah, JKM Scribe. Yeah.
Scribe.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to. If I have your phone number, if I don't get it right, I'll get it. But I want to say thank you for your time. Thank you for everything, and I want to say bye to everybody. Go to the website, go to docbookshop.com and get the book. It is out there, and we have other books that are a part of the series. Get these books and enter in a chance to win some of the gear that we're getting. I mentioned today that I had the flags that I wore earlier for the soccer grannies of South Africa, and I had their flag on today, but I didn't have a Zambia flag because they're not a part of the 48 teams. So,
unfortunately,
FC Dallas does not have their flag. So maybe somebody out there send me some Zambia stuff, and as I read and share more about this book. But again, thank you so much for joining us, and I appreciate it. Bye to everybody out there that tuned in, and thank you so much, Jay.
Thank you for having me, and looking forward to meeting you and doing the book signing. Yeah.
All right, thank you. I'm going to close out with this. woman. That's a little bad woman.